1 mile outside Baker City, Oregon, mid-March 1881. Leah Carlson kicked a wicker chair out of her way and stormed off the porch, angrier than she'd been in years. Well, years might be a stretch, but at least weeks, or perhaps several days. Maybe riding to town and finding Pa would be a good idea. She glared at the ground, her mood not improved by the thick mud clinging to the bottom of her boots, and scraped it off on a horseshoe nailed to the bottom step. March, her least favorite month, always felt somewhere between winter and spring, with none of the benefits of either. She trooped up the steps and righted the chair. Not the chair's fault Pa had gotten drunk again and stayed all night in town. Buddy, their aging ranch hand, had seen Pa go into the saloon when Buddy had headed home from the mercantile last night. At first he hadn't told her, in hopes that his boss would return at a decent hour, but that hadn't happened. Leah wrapped her coat closer around her shoulders. Now most of the chores would fall on her, Buddy, and Buddy's wife, Millie. With Buddy's back giving him fits, she couldn't ask him to do the heavy work, although his pride would force him to try. Why did Pa keep falling off the wagon whenever hope set in that he had finally beat that horrible habit? Empty promises. That's all she'd ever gotten. Promises he'd change. Promises he'd do better. Promises he'd broken ever since Ma died 9 years ago. And lately, it had only gotten worse. Leah had gone from a child at the tender age of 14 to a caretaker and ranch foreman almost overnight, and to this day she still felt robbed. At least the ranch was safe as long as she worked hard to pay the bills, as long as Pa didn't try to use it as collateral for his drinking debts. But something needed to change. Maintaining this place was too much for her and Buddy alone. Pa had to stop drinking. Of course, he appeared to think everything was fine, and even bragged in town about his successful cattle and horse business. She plopped down into the righted chair. Over the years, she had done her best to cover for him, but he had had enough episodes lately that she knew people were talking. All she could do was keep up appearances and find at least one more hired hand. The sooner the better. Digging up some extra cash and increasing her herd of horses by a couple dozen wouldn't hurt either. Dragging Pa home and shaking some sense into his noggin sounded very tantalizing. But knowing her father, he would ignore her efforts or embarrass her in public. No, accosting Pa in town wouldn't work. Somehow she had to beat him at his own game and bring him to his senses. She had no idea how, but she'd find a way if it was the last thing she did. The front door creaked on rusty hinges, and Millie poked her head outside. "Girl, you going to sit there all day staring at nothing? Or come in and get ready for that wedding you've talked about for the past 2 months. Leah bolted upright and jumped to her feet. "Oh, my goodness! I can't believe I forgot Beth's wedding." She brushed a strand of hair out of her eyes. "How much time do I have to get decent?" Millie gestured at her mud-caked boots and stained trousers. "Not near enough from what I can see. Guess you could stay at home. It's not like you're close friends with either the bride or the groom." Leah shook her head. "I promised Catherine Jacobs I'd help with the refreshments since they're entertaining a few close friends at the boarding house after the ceremony. Besides, Beth has attended our quilting group occasionally since Christmas, and we've become friends." She stepped past Millie and headed for the stairs leading to her room. "If Pa comes home while I'm gone, see if you can make him stick around. Will you, please?" Millie grunted. "Can't nobody make that man do nothing he don't want to, girl. You should know that by now, especially if he's been drinking. But I'll try." She waved her hands when Leah paused. "Get on with you. Nothing you can do here anyhow. It's about time you had some fun before you're old and gray like me. Who knows? Maybe some good luck will rub off the bride and land on you."